Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today is my first podcast. I've got an old colleague, a friend here, Brian Cohen. Brian?
Hey, how are you doing?
Thank you for being here. So, I wanted to do a podcast. I don't know if everybody saw last week was my first stand-up, and I've been wanting to do stand-up forever. I finally got the balls to do it and took that leap, and it went great. And Brian here was kind enough to volunteer to interview me. He's got some experience in the industry. Would you mind kind of telling us about that? Your acting experience and what you do?
As far as the background is concerned, it's really nothing that you're going to be able to find on IMDb. That's probably, I aspire to be a D-lister. Maybe that's the first step going forward. And, if you're going to find me anywhere, it'll probably be like the back of my head, the ear, somewhere far in the background of a movie. So once there's more to share, maybe we'll come back and we'll do another podcast together, and I'll push it.
Coming from the guy who, like, we used to work together, come into work, and it's like, yeah, this weekend I was in the show Atlanta. Have you heard of it? Yeah, we heard of the show Atlanta. You're in it, and I guess you had like a small part in there as a background.
Oh, promo action. That's the beauty of being in Atlanta. There's so much happening here. They're calling it the Hollywood of the East.
Yeah, that weekend I was like, I went to the movies, and that was literally the highlight. And oh yeah, I cleaned my fucking apartment. What did you do? Oh, I was in one of the biggest TV shows that's coming out of our city. No biggie, So, so yeah, I'm really glad that he volunteered. As soon as I mean, this is exactly how it happened. I posted it on YouTube, and then I get a call from you, and it's like, dude, did you do stand-up? And then immediately, and this is the reason why I'm doing the podcast, immediately you're like, dude, you should do a podcast. Literally everyone I spoke to and told them, because I was on a high after I did my first bit, my 5-minute bit, they're like, hey, wow, that's cool. It takes a lot of balls to do that. Are you doing a podcast? Are you going to do a podcast? Did you do a podcast? You should do a podcast. And then when you called in and said do a podcast, like, all right, well, one of the comedians that I look up to, he does a podcast, so I'll do a podcast, So Brian's got some questions for me, and he's the man. So let's just take it away.
All right, Carlos Simpson, also known as Chico Amerikan. First of all, congratulations on taking the plunge and doing your very first stand-up. Very exciting, exceptionally exciting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll talk about your experience.
So I live in Smyrna, and I've been wanting to do stand-up for the longest time, and I left Home Depot corporate back right at the New Year's of 2015, and I told myself I want to do stand-up. Now, it's one of those things where you keep telling yourself I'll do it, and then you'll do it tomorrow, and then tomorrow turns into a week, and then a couple of weeks turn into a month, and a couple of months turn into a couple of years, and so the way all of this came about, last week or 2 weeks ago, one of my coworkers comes up to me and goes, hey, do you want to get something to eat? Cool, we're going to eat here, we're going to eat at the cafeteria or the mall. So he wants to eat at the mall. So if you go on my LinkedIn, you'll see a post where it's this young lady holding up a sign saying, free comedy show, bring your lunch. And so I asked about it, and they're like, yeah, we're just trying to grow it. It's going to be here till the end of May. And it was like a sign from God, deity, spirit, the universe, whatever you want to call it. It was a sign, literally a white girl with a sign. But I saw comedians, basically they're trying to get people from eating in the cafeteria or in the food courts, what I should say, to come in with their food and watch the show, but they're practicing new material. So you saw some of them, they'd have the microphone and then they finish their joke and be like, all right, what's my next joke? And they pick up like a flashcard and read it. Okay, cool. Or they'd have their phones with them, so they wouldn't have memorized, and you could tell that it was not expected for it to be memorized. And the other comedians were very amicable to, all right, that if a joke bombed, they weren't gonna boo. They were just more like, everybody, like I think the phrase everybody says whenever a joke bombs there is like, all right, well that didn't go over well, and they just play it off. And my coworker, I'm not gonna say his name because I don't have his permission or anything, but he looked at me when we were walking back. He goes, "You should do that." And I was like, "I am." What do you mean? I talked to the owner and I was like, "That's it. I'm taking the lead. This is a sign." So I was like, "Hey, I've always wanted to do stand up. I've got material. I've been writing material since the beginning of this year because that was my New Year's resolution, 2017. I'm going to do stand up. It was my resolution in 2016. Didn't do it. And January, February, March, April. Now we're in May, and so I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm either gonna suck at it, or it's gonna be something I try and I'm gonna love. And Joe was like, the guy who runs the place is called Joe. He goes, yeah, you can come in, and you could just see he was dubious. He was like, yeah, you're gonna come in next week, and yeah, I'll never see you again.
No, it's super exciting for people like many of the people that are going to be listening to you have never done stand-up before, may never do stand-up. So if you'd be good enough to give us an idea of what you felt just before, during, and after that first stand-up.
So right before, I was obsessed. Like, I just couldn't stop thinking about it, but I didn't want to get nervous. Like, I knew that if I gave myself the opportunity to get nervous, I might get scared, and I hate. I'm a dude. I don't get scared. So I did everything to just kind of build up the energy. Like right before a football game, we gonna get out there. Yeah, do it. Whatever. Fight somebody. But so I Googled or YouTubed my first stand-up. One of my all-time favorite comedians. I'm not gonna say his name just in case. I don't know if there's like I don't know if what do you call it? If I ever meet him, I know there's a term for it where you meet your idol and your idol's an asshole, and then now you. So I'm not gonna say his name. I just look up to this guy as like literally one of my favorite comedians, and so I knew that there was an interview where he spoke to one of his colleagues, and they spoke about their first time. So that really alleviated the anxiety. It really kind of focused me. Also, a bunch of my first time doing stand-up videos came up, and I was like, nope, I am not watching that, because I knew that was going to make me nervous.
Right.
I just kept going over my lines over and over, make sure I had the tempo, the pitch, the drop, the bit, and there was especially one part that I kept forgetting, the terroristic scrotums. No matter, I practiced for a week, and I kept forgetting that one line, so I kept like slapping myself. It's kind of weird, because I'm walking over there, and somebody would have seen some Mexican talking to himself, slapping himself in the face, going, terroristic scrotums, don't forget that. Like, the fuck? During, like, I was nervous, and so the way it was supposed to go, my buddy from work was like, once he found out I was going to come in, he said, all right, I'm going to watch you. And I was like, yeah, sure. Just like Joe, I was dubious. And so I also told one of my friends, the guy who's filming it, who holds the camera, and so I figured one or the other was going to bail. So I was going to either have one there, or I was going to ask somebody, hey, look, could you please videotape me? I want to critique myself. Turns out not only did they both show up, but one of my colleagues brought another coworker. So this is a very intimate setting. The camera hides how small the room is. There are literally 10 people right in front of you. Like, I don't know if you can see in the video, when I begin, it's open and this big tall guy sits and like kind of covers me. There's a reason I was speaking directly to him. I couldn't look at the people that came with me. My friends that came to see me, if I saw them one time and it like blasted everything I was thinking in my mind, and you can kind of see it in the video. Some people don't see it unless I tell them. They're like, oh, okay, no, I see it. So I probably shouldn't be saying it, but I don't give a fuck. I'm, answering the question. When I'm saying cooperation and dead eyes, that was my ditty to go back to get yourself centered. So I had to literally look at all the other comedians and talk to them about the story, and purposely not look at the people that came with me that know me. So that was very fun. Afterwards, Cloud 9, especially after I saw the video, because I wanted this to be a statement. I really wanted to come in hard. Pun intended, given the context of the video, because you and I just watched it just to kind of, relive it. And so I wanted to come in hard. I wanted to make a statement that I am not scared, that I'm gonna be professional and funny and original as possible with the things that I've experienced that happened to me. So it was really great, and I was literally telling everybody, and you could just see I was glowing. So, and looking forward, already working on next Tuesday's bit, because it's gonna go all the way till the end of May. Every Tuesday at 12:30 at Colony Square, right there on 14th Street and Peachtree Street in Midtown, in the food court in front of Moe's. I can't miss it. So, and I'm trying to see if I can bring more people. So yeah.
You had mentioned the video we just watched again. So you gave us a flavor of what you felt during. How did it feel versus what you were perceiving in the middle of it to watch yourself afterwards? How did you feel? What thoughts
I
went through your
look more calm than I really was. I was very nervous, and I hate saying that. I mean, I think you mentioned it earlier. You know, this is my first time.
Right.
I didn't want to hide behind that, but at the same point, I can see it, and I guess good job, Chico, on accidentally playing that off better than you felt. I was very nervous the entire time. I was trying to actively calm myself down, but at the same point, it was like skydiving or riding a motorcycle. It was like a thrill. This is the best example. You can see my face. I look like a fucking dumbass right now.
No, you're smiling your head off.
I'm like,
wow,
yeah!
Should have had video to record this podcast.
Yeah, like the first time I had, I banged a black girl, so what? I totally gotta write that. I have a whole bit about that. The first time I nailed blank ethnicity, so.
Okay, well, since you mentioned that was going to be one of my questions. What may be off limits? Since you didn't seem to have much you were afraid to share during your first skit, what wouldn't you touch on?
That's a very good question. So anything to do with pro-racism, anything Trump. So if I sound like a Trump supporter, no. Anything that makes me even remotely sound like a Trump supporter, automatically that's an out. I'm very much about equality. I'm very much about pointing, and I think a lot of comedians do this, pointing out those double standards that are in society. There's a bit about women don't like men because they judge women that they're too fat, and then they're like, all right, would you date a tall guy or a short guy? Well, I would never date a short guy. That's something you can't fucking help. Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of hard to explain because in that one bit, I talked about the opaque white room of growth and rape. I talked about your butthole gloves. I talked about being profiled, but I'm never gonna be like pro-Nazism, pro-Klan. Like, I'm in the South, and obviously I don't like the KKK. I don't even like the Confederate flag. So I think anything that would make me sound pro that is definitely off limits. Which, it's going to be hard because you can make some really good jokes on that, but as long as people understand where I'm coming from, I'm always coming from a point of, like, my girlfriend's black. And I'll always point out certain things that I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't even know that's a thing. It's like a double standard. The same thing that I do with my Mexican family. We'll be hanging out and they'll say something about America, and I'm like, that's kind of fucked up, So that's definitely going to be it. That's going to be off limits. No baby fucking.
Standards.
I mean, I gotta have. I'm classy, right?
Yeah. So you mentioned Carl. We don't need to know who that is. You're protecting them. I appreciate that. But who in your immediate circle has already come up to you and said, "Hey, don't mention this in the past," or "Don't mention me"? How much of that have you had?
Well, they haven't done that yet, but I'm pretty sure if they ever listen to this podcast, they will. No, that person, that actually did happen. I didn't make that up. That was an actual experience that happened to me on a visit to New York, and I immediately called the person that happened to, because people were like, "Oh yeah, your friend, quote unquote, Carl, your name is Carlos," and that's literally where I got Carl from. Just think of Carl from The Walking Dead. That's my white guy, okay? That's what I'm talking about. But no, so far no one's come up to me and said, "Hey man, leave this off." And I'm pretty sure if they did, I'd find a way to say it without saying it. But we'll see. I mean, this is still in its infancy, right?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what. It did not seem like it was your first time. You might have been nervous on the inside, but you did a great job of just getting it out there. So you obviously practiced a lot. So tell us a little bit about how you practice, your favorite place to practice. How does that work?
So, I don't know if this is like a trade secret, but this is definitely, the way it went down was first I wrote it down. It's like I made a joke about this, just like in college. You write shit down and you kind of get an idea of where it's going and let it kind of formulate. So initially it was like a 3-part story, but each part was 5 minutes each. So I had to narrow it down to one story. And then once I wrote it down, I use a app on my phone, and I would practice in the car on the drive to work, on the drive back from work, and definitely when I had quiet moments here at home. I did a best man speech at my best friend's wedding, at Carl's wedding, let's just say that. And I nailed it. And so I remember I never actually wrote anything down. I just practiced it out loud over and over in the car long enough so that it became second nature. It's like telling a story or pitching. You and I were in sales. Pitching a sales pitch, you've said it so many times, you can say it with different inflections. So just getting it down so I had the content down. And then once I had about 5 minutes worth, that's when I tried to sneak as much funny into it. That's where I try to be as original as possible. One of my biggest fears is stealing someone's work. I don't know if you've seen the Bill Burr and Joe Rogan. I believe they one time bomb rushed Carlos Mencia, and they called him out on stage for stealing jokes. And they even had like videos of people who were complaining about him, like, yeah, I made this joke about let's build a border. Who's gonna build it? And his Asian friend said it, and then Carlos said it on stage, and apparently he didn't give him credit. And so Bill Burr and Joe Rogan destroyed him, and Carlos isn't here. Joe and Bill are, but so I tried to make it as original as possible to not steal anything. So that's where, as I'm talking out loud and hearing myself, like just it generically came out, like that joke. In my mind, they're checking for terrorist scrotums. Oh, that's good. Write that shit down. The opaque white room of grope and rape. That's great. Up your butthole gloves. It's priceless. Like, so. And most importantly, and as lame as this is, when I did that best man speech, the shower. In the shower, for some odd reason, I'm clearing my thoughts, and I guess I can talk and I can hear myself in its own way. So as corny as it sounds, I'm sitting there practicing holding a mic, so I got like a fucking shampoo bottle in my hand, so I can practice my mannerisms, because as you noticed, I didn't just stand by the mic. The first thing I did was take the mic out and then walk around. I needed to paint a picture. I needed you to, as the audience, to be in the airport with me. I needed you to be in, getting scanned by that guy. Put your hands up. All right, put your balls against the glass, moving to the right. And I don't think I'm the type of comedian that can get you there just using my words. I need to use this goofy face of mine. I need to use this fat frame that is my body and and bring you in, so to speak. So definitely Chico in the shower practicing with the shampoo bottle.
Excellent. So your first skit was in a pretty safe environment. You had a number of other comedians trying out their business, and you had some of your friends come along. So how are you prepared for hecklers when you're out in the wild in real stand-up situations?
I've been practicing. There's a Netflix special about hecklers that I watched a few years ago, and it's got everybody. It's got Louis C.K. It's got everybody. And every comedian I've researched, because I've been doing a lot of research. I'm listening to people like I listen to comedy. You might have saw one or two Netflix specials after work. No, ever since 2010. In my ears while working 8 hours a day, all I listened to was comedy. Ever since 2010, from Greg Giraldo talking about the Olympics, to Kathleen Madigan talking about going over to Afghanistan, and so I've been trying, especially once I got serious about it in 2016. I've been getting super serious about studying what are these guys doing that make them so funny, studying the funny. So kind of went off on a tangent there. So the goal is this. The stand-up that I'm doing now, the safe place, so to speak, in the mall, it's only gonna last three more weeks.
Okay.
So that gives me 3 weeks. I've already wrote everything down. I already know what I'm going to say for week 2, 3, and 4. And there's a big reveal at week 4. And I'm obviously gonna document and put those videos up on YouTube. I've already created the YouTube channel to have the Chico photo, that goofy photo. My Facebook has the Chico Amerikan photo. It's got a video of my stand-up. My Instagram, my Twitter, everything is Chico Amerikan-fied to kind of build a brand. And so that's going to give me enough content and practice, and then I'm going to start taking on the world, so to speak. So I've got my heckler. I already got a couple zingers ready. Please don't come out and try me. All right, that's. But I mean, you can try. I think one day I'm literally gonna spend 8 hours practicing just zingers back and forth because I'm an angry fucking person. But after I have all that information in the videos and I've got the podcast ready to go, anybody can kind of see the journey of Chico, and I'm gonna continue as long as the clubs let me videotape with my phone. Very low tech, very I just want to have content out there to keep critiquing myself, to give to the world, so the world can tell me, hey, that shit bombed, or wow, that shit that you didn't expect to be funny, that was actually really funny. And I'm gonna start. I have a list of all the open mic nights in Atlanta, and I'm just gonna try and attack as many of those every day, because again, I'm not just gonna limit it to these 4 stories that I'm going to tell. I've got more stories to tell. Trust me, world. Chico Amerikan went out and lived for you, all right? I have done some batshit crazy shit that I got to tell you about.
Well, I'll tell you what. I know how passionate you are about a number of things, and if you put that towards this endeavor, I know you're going to be successful. So I really look forward to doing this again in the future after your name is out there and people know who you are. But what when you get to that point of success that you made it, what would that be to you? How would you know you're there?
Honestly, short-term goals. I'll give you short-term and long-term goals. Immediate short-term goals are going to be that I can augment my income. I can 100% do this and pay for my apartment, pay for rent, pay for food. That would be the short-term goals. That it augments my current income that I make in my current job. Now, long-term goal, I would love to get to my first 2, not my first 1, the first 2 Netflix stand-ups. So that's like my long-term goal and short-term goals.
Very cool.
So
very cool. Well, is there anything else that you wish I'd asked that you want to share?
Honestly, no. You did a really good job. I'm trying to think of anything else that I haven't said. Hopefully everybody can see me. I've never done the Facebook Live. Chico is, you've seen those. They pop up on my feed all the time, and I never watch them. But I think the other day when we went to go see Gary Owen, Shanice was watching him from his, so I'm like, all right, I guess I'll do the same and let everybody know the night before that, hey, check out the first video, check out the podcast, and then you can catch the continuation of my story tomorrow at Colony Square, and that's going to be I'm going to do that tomorrow, Monday. I'll just make a nice little backdrop, and yeah, guys, feel free to comment on the video. Reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I don't think I left any of those out. And if you need to email me, Chico_Amerikan with a K at iCloud.com. Chico_Amerikan at iCloud.com. Y'all have a great day. My name is Carlos Simpson, and I am Chico Amerikan.